The salt-laden wind whipped across Alexander Mitchell's face as he stood at the edge of Cape Haven's rocky shore. The old Victorian house loomed before him, weathered shingles and peeling blue paint, telling stories of neglect and forgotten promises. 14 years since he'd last set foot here. 14 years since his mother's funeral. The Atlantic churned restlessly behind him, reflecting the storm brewing inside his chest. Alex traced his finger along the iron key in his pocket, cold, heavy with meaning. At 32, he had mastered the art of invisibility in his father's world of Boston real estate and old money. But memories refused to stay buried here at Cape Haven. The day he came out at 18 flashed through his mind, his mother's arms wrapped around him, whispering, "I love you exactly as you are." His father Richard's stony silence and the gradual withdrawal that followed, business trips stretching longer, conversations growing shorter. Then came Victoria's adoption. By 20, Alex had become a ghost in his own family, retreating to the sanctuary of libraries and literature, where stories offered what family couldn't acceptance. Now Richard Mitchell was dead, and Alex was late to the reading of his will. The sleek offices of Thompson and Associates screamed old money with their mahogany panels and ancestral oil paintings. Samantha, his adoptive sister, sat poised in designer black, her perfectly manicured nails drumming impatiently against the armrest. Jessica, his stepmother, dabbed theatrically at dry eyes. They barely acknowledged Alex's arrival in his rumpled cardigan and worn loafers. "Now that everyone is finally present," Walter Thompson began, silver glasses perched on his nose, "we shall proceed." As Walter read the will, Alex felt strangely detached. The Mitchell real estate empire, valued at over $300 million, went to Samantha, the Boston townhouse to Jessica, various investments and properties divided between them. Then, unexpectedly, Walter said his name. "To my son, Alexander Mitchell, I leave Cape Haven and its contents, plus the safety deposit box number 21 Unseen at First National." Silence crashed like a wave. Samantha's mask of composure cracked. A decrepit beach house, that's it. As Alex left the building, he collided with a man hurrying up the stairs. Strong hands steadied him, and blue eyes met his. "I'm sorry, Baron," the stranger said, smiling. "Completely my fault." "No harm done," Alex replied, noticing the man's legal briefcase. "David Collins," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Just started at Johnson and Mercer across the street." Their handshake lingered a moment too long, and something shifted in Alex's world. Have you ever returned to a place from your past, only to discover it held the key to your future? Follow Heart Stories for more tales of hidden legacies and unexpected connections that remind us the journey to finding ourselves often begins with facing what we've left behind. 3 days later, Alex stood in Cape Haven's dusty living room, where bookshelves still held his mother's beloved classics and the piano remained untouched in the corner. Outside, waves crashed against the rocky Maine coastline, wild, untamed, constant. Unlike the pristine, manufactured elegance of Mitchell Estates properties, Cape Haven was raw, authentic, alive with memories. The house had been violated, dresser drawers emptied onto floors, paintings tilted askew, floorboards pried up, then hastily replaced. Someone had been searching for something. Alex ran his fingers along the fireplace mantel, where a framed photo of his mother remained, her smile radiating warmth even through the layer of dust. In her arms was 12-year-old Alex, before everything changed. "She used to read poetry right here on stormy nights," came a voice from the doorway. Alex turned to find an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes. "Evelyn Thompson," she introduced herself. "I run the cafe down in town. Your mother and I were friends." Evelyn brought fresh blueberry muffins and stories of his mother that Alex had never heard, how she'd started a small lending library for local children, how she'd fought against a developer trying to buy the historic lighthouse. She spoke of a woman with quiet courage, not the fragile figure his father had painted after her death. "She knew, you know," Evelyn said softly, "about what Jessica was doing." That evening, at the local diner, Alex met Michael Gardner, the town's resident artist whose gallery displayed vibrant seascapes and abstract pieces exploring identity and belonging. Michael's rainbow pin glinted under the overhead lights. "Not many openly gay men in Haven Cove when I arrived," Michael said, stirring his coffee. "Your mother was one of the few who made me feel welcome." The next morning, Alex opened the safety deposit box. Inside lay his mother's journal and a stack of letters his mother's handwriting to his father. A returned unopened with "refused" stamped in red. The final letter bore a different message in his father's angular script. "Too late. I know everything now." His mother's journal revealed the devastating truth: Jessica and Samantha weren't who they claimed to be. They worked for BlackRock Estates, Richard's chief competitor. His mother had discovered financial documents being photographed, confidential bids being leaked. She'd hidden proof at Cape Haven before cancer claimed her. Most shocking was his father's private journal. Hidden behind a loose brick in the study fireplace, Richard had discovered Alex's high school diary years ago. "My son is gay," he'd written. "I don't understand it. I don't know how to speak to him now. Better to keep my distance than say the wrong thing and lose him completely." Then later entries: anonymous donations to LGBT youth organizations, college tuition paid in full, a private investigator hired to ensure Alex's safety in Boston, silent protection from a man who never learned how to express love directly. Alex's phone rang. Samantha's cold voice cut through the line. $50,000 if you walk away from that house, and whatever you think you found, some things should stay buried. Alex. In the silence that followed her hanging up, Alex understood the value of what he possessed wasn't measured in dollars, but in truth. The forgotten son had become the keeper of secrets that could shatter the Mitchell empire and perhaps rebuild something more authentic from its ruins. The Boston courtroom buzzed with whispers as Alex entered, David Collins at his side. 3 weeks had passed since Samantha filed her lawsuit claiming Richard Mitchell had not been of sound mind when drafting his will. The legal documents painted Alex as an opportunistic, estranged son who had manipulated a vulnerable father. The Mitchell name ensured premium coverage in the Boston Globe, with photographs of Alex entering his modest apartment building contrasted against Samantha emerging from her Beacon Hill townhouse. Walter Thompson approached them in the hallway, his expression grave beneath silver hair. "They've subpoenaed Richard's medical records. Jessica claims he was taking medication that affected his judgment when he changed the will." "Was he?" Alex asked. Walter's eyes held steady. "No, he was never more clear-headed than in those final months. There's something you should know. I've been holding evidence in my firm's vault. Your father instructed me to produce it only if Samantha contested the will." Meanwhile, Alex's Boston apartment had been broken into, his laptop stolen, files rifled through, nothing of value taken except the digital copy of his mother's journal. A note left on his pillow read simply, "Stop digging." The police filed a report but suggested it was likely random, despite the lock showing no signs of forced entry. David had become more than legal counsel. After late nights reviewing case documents, they'd shared quiet dinners and cautious touches. "They're afraid," David observed one evening, sifting through papers spread across his dining table. "Afraid enough to break laws." "But why Cape Haven?" Alex wondered. "The house isn't worth a fraction of what Samantha inherited." The preliminary hearing became a battlefield. Samantha's attorney, Gregory Mason, a shark in a tailored suit, presented affidavits from Richard's business associates claiming he'd been confused and easily influenced. Toward the end, Jessica dabbed theatrical tears, describing how Richard had barely recognized his own daughter some days. When Alex took the stand, Mason attacked. "Isn't it true you abandoned your family obligations to pursue alternative interests?" "I pursued a career in library science," Alex answered steadily. "My father made it clear there wasn't room for me in the family business." "Perhaps because you never showed interest in it," Mason suggested with practiced concern. "No," Alex replied, maintaining eye contact with the judge. "Because I didn't fit his image of what a Mitchell should be." The breakthrough came unexpectedly. Michael Gardner flew in from Maine to testify he'd witnessed Samantha breaking into Cape Haven 2 days after Richard's death. Then Walter produced the bombshell emails between Jessica and BlackRock Estates dating back 5 years, outlining confidential Mitchell business strategies. That night, as Alex and David celebrated the day's small victory with takeout Chinese food, Alex's phone buzzed with an anonymous text. Check the foundation donor list. Hours of research revealed something stunning. The Richard Mitchell Foundation for Youth had been quietly funding an LGBT youth center in Boston for the past decade. The next morning, David discovered the law firm representing Samantha had previously defended BlackRock in multiple lawsuits. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture of conspiracy and betrayal that ran deeper than Alex had imagined. What began as a battle over a beach house had exposed a corporate espionage plot spanning years. When they returned to court, Samantha's composed facade had begun to crack. The woman who had dismissed Alex as irrelevant his entire life now watched him with something new in her eyes, fear. Judge Eleanor Barnes presided over the courtroom with unwavering authority, her silver hair pulled into a tight bun, her eyes missing nothing. Day 3 of the trial brought David to his feet, voice resonating through the tense space. Your Honor, we have evidence that Cape Haven contains documented proof of corporate espionage orchestrated by Jessica Mitchell and carried out by Samantha Mitchell over a period of 6 years. The courtroom erupted. Judge Barnes's gavel cracked like thunder. Order Walter Thompson took the stand, his testimony devastating. Richard Mitchell came to my office 8 months before his death with a box of documents. He told me his wife had betrayed him and his daughter was not who she claimed to be. He discovered this too late to prevent the damage to his company, but he was determined that the truth would come to light. Walter presented the letters from Alex's mother, each one detailing suspicious activities, documenting meetings between Jessica and BlackRock executives, noting confidential information that mysteriously reached competitors, all returned unopened by Richard. He didn't believe her, Judge Barnes asked. Not until he found proof himself. Walter answered. By then, Catherine Mitchell was gone. His grief became guilt, then purpose. He restructured his will to ensure Alex would receive the evidence his mother had protected all those years. When Jessica took the stand, her composure crumbled under questioning. She admitted to contacting BlackRock initially just for information, a relationship that evolved into regular intelligence sharing. But she insisted Samantha had known nothing. That lie shattered when David presented Samantha's college records, not from Harvard as she claimed, but from the same school where BlackRock's founder had been a trustee. Her entire identity had been constructed to infiltrate the Mitchell family. Samantha sat rigid, her designer suit no longer armor but a costume exposed. When finally called to testify, she walked to the stand with measured steps of someone crossing thin ice. Did you knowingly participate in corporate espionage against Mitchell Estates? David asked. The silence stretched. Then, I did what I was trained to do. Her voice held no remorse, only the wariness of someone who had carried a false identity too long. I was 17 when BlackRock recruited me. They promised education, security, purpose. My real parents were gone. They became my family. Her eyes found Alex's. You had everything the Mitchell name, legacy, belonging even when you rejected it. I had nothing. As the truth unfolded, Alex felt no triumph, only the hollow ache of understanding how thoroughly both he and his father had been deceived. The irony was bitter. Richard had withdrawn from his gay son while embracing a daughter who betrayed him. Both relationships built on misunderstanding and silence. Judge Barnes's ruling came swiftly. The will stood. Criminal investigations would begin into both Jessica and Samantha for corporate espionage. BlackRock Estates faced multiple federal charges. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, but Alex slipped away. He found Samantha alone on a bench in the small park across the street, staring at nothing. What happens now? She asked without looking up. You rebuild. Alex answered quietly. So will I. Their eyes met briefly, two people raised in the same house who had never truly known each other. No forgiveness passed between them, but perhaps something equally valuable: recognition. That evening, Alex and David walked along the Boston harbor, the city lights reflecting in the dark water. "Your father left you more than a house," David observed. "He left you the truth. And the freedom to decide what to do with it," Alex added, his hand finding David's as they continued forward into the uncertain, hopeful night. Cape Haven stood transformed against the Maine skyline. Fresh blue paint gleamed in the summer sunshine. New wooden steps led to a wide porch adorned with rocking chairs and overflowing bookshelves protected by glass doors. The weathered sign at the entrance read, "The Cape Haven Foundation for LGBTQ+ Literature and Arts," in flowing script, the wood carved by Michael's skilled hands. Inside, what once was a formal dining room now housed Maine's most extensive collection of queer literature and history. The parlor had become a gallery showcasing local LGBTQ+ artists. Upstairs, 5 bedrooms had been converted into living spaces for resident writers and artists, each named after influential queer voices through history. Alex moved through the rooms, straightening books and adjusting pillows. At 33, he carried himself differently now, the hesitation in his posture replaced by quiet confidence. David appeared in the doorway, legal files tucked under one arm, free hand offering coffee. "The grant applications are submitted," David said, pressing a kiss to Alex's temple. "And the summer program is officially full." Their partnership had blossomed alongside Cape Haven's transformation. David had left his Boston firm to establish a legal aid clinic serving LGBTQ+ youth in the coastal community, operating from the converted garage behind the main house. Evelyn bustled in carrying trays of pastries for the afternoon's event. "Your mother would be bursting with pride," she said, arranging muffins on vintage platters. "This place hasn't held so much life since she was here." The Mitchell empire had been dismantled after the trial. BlackRock estates collapsed amid federal investigations. Jessica faced charges for corporate espionage. Samantha, granted immunity for testimony, had disappeared to Europe. Alex had kept nothing from his inheritance except Cape Haven and enough to establish the foundation. In his father's study, now the foundation's office, Alex discovered one final letter months after the trial. Hidden in a hollowed-out copy of Great Expectations was an envelope addressed simply, "Alex," inside. His father's angular handwriting confessed what he never said aloud. "I was wrong to push you away. Your courage to live truthfully shamed my cowardice. This house was where your mother was happiest, where you were most yourself. Make it a home for others like you. I am proud of the man you've become." The doorbell chimed. Marcus Williams stood nervously on the porch, portfolio clutched against his chest, eyes wide with hope and uncertainty. At 23, he reminded Alex of himself: talented, anxious, searching for belonging. "I'm here for the writing residency interview," Marcus said, voice barely above a whisper. "Though I'm probably not qualified, I never finished college, and I've only published in small online magazines." Alex smiled, inviting him inside. "Tell me about your work." As Marcus described his stories of growing up queer in rural America, his voice gradually strengthened. Alex recognized the universal need that Cape Haven now fulfilled: not just shelter, but witness. The power of being seen. Later, standing on the cliffs overlooking the Atlantic with David and Marcus, Alex watched the sunset paint the water gold. The ocean was calm today, a gentle rhythm against the shore. "My father built an empire of glass towers and concrete," Alex said softly. "But this a house where people find their voices. This is the legacy that matters." Marcus would become their 5th resident artist, joining the small community of creators who filled Cape Haven with new stories. The Forgotten Son had created a sanctuary where nothing and no one would be forgotten again. What forgotten place from your past might hold the key to your future? What truth have you inherited that could change everything? Share your story in the comments below, and subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales of redemption, courage, and the family we choose that becomes the foundation of who we are meant to be.